If you need a no-bake Christmas Day dessert, it doesn't get any better than my gluten-free, no-bake Bailey's cheesecake. This is a really easy recipe to make, and you can whip it up on Christmas Eve, ready for Christmas Day, or just make it whenever you fancy something delicious. But get a load of that slice. Let me show you how easy this recipe is to make. To start off with, we're going to need to make that buttery biscuit base. So I'm using chocolate gluten-free digestives, and of course if you're not gluten-free you can make this with normal digestives, but honestly nobody will even realise the whole thing doesn't have any gluten in. And if you can't eat chocolate you can use normal gluten-free digestives, but I just like the extra chocolatiness. Once you've blended them into a crumb, you're just going to add some melted butter in, and then we're going to blitz it up again, and that is how simple it is to make a cheesecake base. Honestly, if you are a beginner baker or you're a bit daunted by making gluten-free stuff, a cheesecake is a great place to start because they are just so easy. Once you blitz that up, you can see it sort of starts to stick together a little bit, and I'm just going to press this into a pan. Now I'm using a springform pan just because I find them a bit easier to get the cheesecake out of, and I've put a little bit of baking paper on the bottom just to make sure that my cheesecake doesn't stick. Again, it's just a little tip I find that makes it easier to get the cheesecake out. And while I make the filling, I just put the base in the fridge. So I've added some cream cheese, and you want to use full fat cream cheese because if you use a low fat version, it's very likely your cheesecake will just go very runny and not set. I'm adding some icing sugar in, and then I'm just going to whip this together. So this is forming the base of the cheesecake topping. Now I have popped all the recipe details in the caption below this video, so if you want the quantities and step-by-step instructions, you can check them out on my website. Once I've whipped up the cream cheese, I'm going in with my double cream and of course my Bailey's. And yes, Bailey's is gluten-free. And then we're just going to whip this up again until it goes nice and thick. Now you don't want to over mix it, you want it to kind of be in like soft peaks, and it does take a little while, but as you can see the mixture is starting to thicken until it kind of gets to this sort of consistency, and then it's ready to scrape it on top of the cheesecake base. Now to make sure I don't get any weird bubbles in mine, I like to kind of put the bottom bit of the base on first and just spread it out, because sometimes I find you can get kind of weird empty patches in your cheesecake. So I'm just using a little palette knife to spread this out, and then I'm just going to pour the rest of the cheesecake mixture on top. And another tip to get rid of any bubbles is also to just give it a couple of light taps on the worktop. This will just ensure you don't get any kind of weird holes in your cheesecake. And I'm going to smooth this over as best I can with a palette knife, and that is pretty much it. Once you've done that, your cheesecake is ready to go in the fridge. Now I'd highly recommend doing this the night before at least and leaving it overnight, but if you are really pushed for time you could make this in the morning and serve it up at dinner time. And then we're just going to carefully take out the springform tin. This is always a bit that makes me nervous, and don't worry if you do get any weird edges, you can just smooth them over with your palette knife. And then I'm going to grate some grated dark chocolate on top of mine, and I got these Bailey's truffles which I found that I'm just popping on for a bit of decoration. Now this is such a beautiful showstopper dessert. It doesn't involve turning on the oven, so it won't take up room when you're trying to cook all your Christmas dinner, and your guests are going to absolutely love it. Don't forget the full recipe details are down below, and follow along on my channel because I'm posting new Christmas recipe every day as part of my gluten-free Christmas countdown. So make sure you hit subscribe, and I'll see you again for the next recipe tomorrow.